Hey guys, it's Nick, and it's that time of year. The Stanley Cup playoffs are on. Unfortunately, again, your Chicago Blackhawks are not in the playoffs. But that doesn't mean anything for this. This video is who I predict on the 2022 Stanley Cup playoffs and who will be hoisting Lord Stanley's Cup this year. It sucks again the Hawks won't be competing for the Cup because, frankly, the Hawks were terrible all season, and that happens. We haven't had a good season in years, but we're back to the Stanley Cup playoffs. All 82 games have played, except for two teams, the Kraken and I believe the Blue Jackets, have not played their final game of the year. The Hawks won't be in this again, but I want to predict who will win the 2022 Stanley Cup. Link down below to join my NHL Bracket Challenge in the comments and in the description down below for you guys to join my bracket challenge. So let's get into the bracket making. So we're into the NHL Bracket Challenge for this year. On the Western Conference for the first seed versus the second wild card, it's the Colorado Avalanche and Nashville Predators. Second seed in the Central Division is the Minnesota Wild taking on the St. Louis Blues. In the Pacific Division, the Pacific Division winners in Calgary will be facing off against the first wild card team in Dallas Stars. Then, to finish off the Western Conference, it's the Edmonton Oilers versus the LA Kings. That series could be interesting. On the East, with the President's Trophy, it's the Florida Panthers facing off against the second wild card team of the Washington Capitals. In the other part of the Atlantic Division bracket, it will be the second seeded Toronto Maple Leafs hosting the two-time back-to-back defending Stanley Cup champions Tampa Bay Lightning. And in the Metropolitan Division playoff, it's going to be the Carolina Hurricanes with the first seed taking on the first wild card team, the Boston Bruins. And to finish it all off, it's the New York Rangers versus the Pittsburgh Penguins. This bracket this year, in my opinion, might be the most difficult and most challenging to choose. Last year, I felt like I did terrible, on my bracket, but I feel like this year is going to be even harder. So, let's get into making this bracket, shall we? I'm going to start off in the first round with the Western Conference. In the first round, as we see the first seeded Colorado Avalanche, they face off against the Nashville Predators. You can see here their matchup is of 119 points to 97 points on the spread. Have a good amount of goal differential on each side. The Predators do give up quite a bit of goals against. Leading point getters for each team, Mikko Rantanen of the Avalanche and Roman Josi of the Predators. In this series, I really have to go with the best here. I really think the Colorado Avalanche knock out the Nashville Predators in... I'm going to give it 5. In a 5-game series. That's going to be a 5-game series in my prediction. Then we see the Minnesota Wild facing off against the St. Louis Blues I have to go with Minnesota here. I like Minnesota in this matchup. Yes, St. Louis has won a hell of a lot against Minnesota in recent years, but they have not faced Marc-Andre Fleury in the playoffs, and if Fleury is the starting goalie, who we hope is, St. Louis is going to have a hard time, I feel like. Calgary versus Dallas. This one's interesting. I think we see an upset, but I don't know if it happens. I kind of have to go Calgary in this series. They have so many they have a lethal scoring first line in Gaudreau, Kachuk. They were outstanding this year. Dallas has a sneaky young player in Jason Robertson. Goaltending could be an interesting one because it will be Markstrom versus Ottinger, but I would take Markstrom in this series. LA versus Edmonton. This one could be a fun series. Edmonton, a high-scoring offense. LA, a young, up-and-coming team, maybe a year ahead of their rebuild, and they're in the playoffs. I kind of think we see an upset here because I like the goaltending more on LA over the Oilers. So I have to pick the number of games in series. As I said, I think Colorado wins in 5 over Nashville. This one against Calgary and Dallas, I think this one could go the distance, but I honestly can see Calgary pulling it off in 6. Minnesota versus St. Louis. I'm taking Minnesota in 7 here. And Edmonton versus LA. Because I have LA winning the series by upset, I'm taking another 7-game series because I think Jonathan Quick is going to be Jonathan Quick of playoff hockey we know him as. So, let's get into the Eastern Conference, shall we? In the East, the President's Trophy winning Florida Panthers, who score a hell of a lot because they average 4.14 goals a game to the Capitals' 3.31. And the goaltending has been good. Bobrovsky's played well this season for the Panthers. Power play, penalty kill for the Panthers is not good. Power play is good. PK for the Capitals, 80%. That's better than the Panthers. 18% on the power play. If Ovechkin's healthy and comes back, power play could be even a lot better in the playoffs. So, I want to take the Florida Panthers here. I like the Panthers and how they're structured. Their defense is an issue in my opinion, but I think they're better off facing Washington in that series. The defending champions of 2 years in a row, Tampa Bay Lightning, taking on the Toronto Maple Leafs in a 7-game series. I have to go with the defending champions here, the Tampa Bay Lightning. I think they're a better team than the Toronto Maple Leafs. Hell, we just saw the Lightning destroy Toronto a couple of days ago in the regular season, and I think Tampa is ready to make another run for a cup. So, Carolina versus Boston. This one should be a fun series, frankly. Goaltending is a question on each team because Frederik Andersen and Antti Raanta of the Hurricanes coming in injured. Boston, they have a young goalie in Swayman and a veteran goalie who hasn't ever played in a playoff in Linus Ullmark. This could be a fun series. Hurricanes are a fun team. Here's the spread of 3.38 goals per game and a 3.1 goals per game for the Bruins. Power play and penalty kill, pretty even on each side except for the PK. Hurricanes have a lethal PK. Um, I'm taking the Canes here because the Canes just seem like a team that's ready to boom this season. If we have to say if, because let's say, be honest, Frederick Anderson is coming in injured, but I'm taking the Hurricanes in this series. The Rangers versus Penguins. This one could be an interesting matchup because the Penguins are coming in as a veteran team. They haven't been able to do much in the playoffs in recent seasons. The Rangers are coming in as this young, high-powered, great goaltending team by scoring at will, having a good defense under Gerard Gallant. Penalty kills weak, and the face-off percentage for the Rangers are not the greatest. But in this series, I think the better goaltender prevails, and I would take Shesterkin over Jari, but right now it does sound like Casey DeSmith will be starting for the Penguins in Game 1. So I would take Shesterkin in this series. Numbers of games per series, Panthers versus Capitals. I will give the Capitals a win. I think the Panthers win it in 5. Bruins versus Hurricanes. This one, as I said, goaltending could be an interesting one. I could see this one going the distance in 7. Tampa versus Toronto. I did take Tampa, and I think this one goes 6. A 6-game series between Tampa and Toronto, I think, can happen. And the Rangers versus Penguins. As I said, DeSmith might be starting in Game 1, and Jari might not be. So, I will take Shesterkin and the Rangers. And I think a sweep could happen here, but I'm going 5. 5 games for the Rangers. So, as we go to the second round, I will now choose the Eastern Conference first, then go to the West. And in the East, we have the Florida Panthers taking on the state rival Tampa Bay Lightning. The Hurricanes facing the Rangers. Then you have the Avalanche facing the Wild. The Flames facing the Kings. So, in this series of the Panthers versus... Actually, I'll go Hurricanes Rangers here. In this series, we see the goals differential of a little bit edge on the Hurricanes. Same with the PK. Power play goes slight edge Rangers. Goals against per game, slight edge in favor for the Hurricanes. This is an interesting matchup. As I said, Hurricanes have a goalie issue and the fact they're coming in injured. The Rangers, I did not mean to do that. The Rangers have a great young goalie in Shesterkin. I do think we do see the Hurricanes win this series. But could I see the Rangers upset here? Yeah, I could see it. But I really think the Hurricanes are built to go far this year with how Rod Brind'Amour has gotten his team going this year. So I have the Hurricanes going to the Eastern Conference Final, taking on whoever wins this series. The Florida Panthers taking on the Tampa Bay Lightning. As we know, Tampa is defending the Stanley Cup for 2 years in a row. It's going to be difficult to get back there because the Panthers are a high-powered offensive monster this season. And the fact that the Panthers are playing the way they are going into the playoffs is something interesting. Tampa Bay, in the last 2 months, really has built their team to get ready to go with Brandon Hagel getting acquired. Yes, Hagel's been slow coming to scoring in the Tampa uniform, but this one could be a high-scoring offensive game series, but I finally think we see it. The Tampa Bay Lightning are eliminated, and we see the Florida Panthers make it to the Eastern Conference Final as the President's Trophy winners. Yes, I'm saying it. The conference final will hopefully have the Florida Panthers with that President's Trophy. I know the curse of the President's Trophy. I know the last time the President's Trophy being won and a team getting past to the conference final was the Blackhawks, where they ended up going to win the Stanley Cup in 2013. Could we see that happen this year? I don't know. Let's get into the second round in the West. The Colorado Avalanche facing Minnesota Wild. And the LA Kings facing the Calgary Flames. This is where we should see something interesting happen. The Avalanche have been known to be bad in the second round of playoff hockey. Could that continue this year? Minnesota, as a Hawk fan, we need them to make it to the conference final. If they do, that means the Hawks get a first round pick if Marc-Andre Fleury has at least 4 wins in the playoffs from the Minnesota Wild. That would be nice for us Hawk fans if we could get a first round pick for this year. Calgary versus LA. As we know, Calgary has LA's former head coach that led them to their 2 Stanley Cup in Daryl Sutter. And Daryl Sutter and how he structured this team has been very stingy. It's been a fun team to watch, frankly. And I do think we see the Calgary Flames make it to the conference final. And they face off against either Colorado or Minnesota. As I said, I really want this to happen. Minnesota versus Calgary would be nice because we do need that for being a Hawk fan. Would be nice to get that first round pick. But, as I mentioned, the goals per game are about even. Minnesota has given Colorado fits this year. Colorado is that team, though, that's built well. Like, the spread is pretty even. Goaltending, I do give a slight edge if Marc-Andre Fleury's in net for the Wild. But if he's not and they go with Talbot, I give the edge to Darcy Kemper and the Colorado Avalanche. So, here's the interesting one. I do think this could happen. The Minnesota Wild upset the Colorado Avalanche in the second round and make it to the conference final. Why? I think the way I've seen the Wild play this year have been stingy and coming back in games, scoring 5-on-5 and getting to overtimes. Yes, overtime in playoffs are different to overtime in regular season. But they're a stingy team to come back in games if they're down. And that is a recipe of success for a playoff run. If you get to the playoffs and you have a team that has that ability to come back in games, that is something to look into. So, I'm taking the Minnesota Wild facing off against the Calgary Flames. This could be interesting. So, now we get to the conference final. as we are in the Western Conference Final and have the Calgary Flames hosting the Minnesota Wild. And in this match, it's a slight edge in favor for the Flames and everything. Minnesota, yes, scores more. They give up more goals. The power play, though, from the Flames could change, yes. Playoff and regular season is a total different beast. And PK as well. If it's Markstrom versus Fleury, it could be a fun series to watch. If it's Talbot versus Markstrom, I would easily give this series to the Flames. So, I'm going to do it and give it to the Calgary Flames winning the 2022 Western Conference Final against the Minnesota Wild. So the Calgary Flames are in the Stanley Cup Final, and who do they face off? Is it the Florida Panthers? Is it the Carolina Hurricanes? This one should be fun. As I mentioned, we've seen it. The goals heavily in favor for the Florida Panthers per game. It is playoff hockey. Playoff hockey, you tend to see more defensive structure. The better defensive structured team, the Carolina Hurricanes. But power play is in favor for the Panthers by a slight edge. PK heavily in favor for the Hurricanes. Defensive hockey tends to make it to cup finals, or stingy hockey in my opinion. This is where we see something happen, though. I can see the Florida Panthers make it to the cup final, but I could also see the Hurricanes make it. And going with my gut, I'm going to take the drumroll please, the Carolina Hurricanes in the Stanley Cup Final. Yes. I think the Hurricanes, just because of defensive hockey, have the better matchup in that series. Yes, as I mentioned, goaltending is a question for the Hurricanes, but we could see a fun Stanley Cup Final if it was the Florida Panthers taking on the Calgary Flames. If it is the Calgary Flames taking on the Carolina Hurricanes. But frankly, I think the Hurricanes just edge out Florida just a bit. Maybe a 7-game series there. And we get to the analytics of the Stanley Cup Final. As I mentioned, both teams are pretty even down the line. Power play, PK. PK is heavily in favor for the Hurricanes. Goals against per game, heavily in favor for the... Slight favor for the Hurricanes here, actually. Goals per game, a little bit in favor for the Flames. But I don't think the Flames pull it out. And as I said, I'm taking the Stanley Cup champions as the Carolina Hurricanes in the 2022 Stanley Cup Final. Is going to end up being won by the Carolina Hurricanes. My tiebreaker for goals in this series, since we do see both teams averaged about 3.4 goals per game. Well, Flames averaged about 3.6 goals per game. I'm going to say a little bit of a interesting one. 36 goals per game. Well, not per game, for the series. That's it. I think that's a good option. And this is my bracket. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you guys come and make your own brackets. So let's get into the finish of this video. As I picked the Carolina Hurricanes to win the Stanley Cup, oddly enough, that was my pick at the beginning of the season to win the Stanley Cup. I get it. Right now, the Hurricanes are going in as the question with goaltending, but I think the way Rod Brind'Amour coaches his team, I think he's ready to get this team to the Stanley Cup. They have a good structured team, up and down, from scoring to playing defense and playing in net. You can have any goalie, and they tend to play well in Carolina. And, well, I really think this is the year the Carolina Hurricanes ends up winning their second Stanley Cup in franchise history. But I could also see the Panthers somehow go in. I think this year the Stanley Cup, yes, stays in the Eastern Conference. It's a prediction. Anything can happen. Predictions are not always 100%. This is my prediction, and that's who I predict to win the Stanley Cup. So, I want to let you guys know again. Make sure to join the bracket challenge. Link is down in the description down below, and also going to be in the comments section as well. So make sure to join that. Make your bracket. Who do you predict to win the 2022 Stanley Cup? And most of all, thank you for watching this broadcast. Please leave a like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And most of all, I know the Hawks season is over, but we have Rockford Ice Hog playoff content coming here soon. So, thank you again for watching this broadcast, and most of all, let's go Hawks!